The house had rules you could feel before anyone explained them. The ceilings were high enough to carry voices upward, away from consequence. The chairs were arranged with an unconscious precision that suggested everyone already knew where they belonged. She moved through the room with a practiced economy, refilling glasses, adjusting napkins, anticipating needs before they were voiced. It wasn't servitude, it was habit. Years of learning that usefulness reduced friction. Years of being praised for being easy. No one stopped her. That, too, was information. The family gathered for what was framed as a simple celebration, an anniversary, a milestone, something that required wine and a speech. The wine was good. Too good for a casual pour, she thought, noticing the weight of the bottle, the familiar label she hadn't expected to see here. Whitmore Estate. Their reserve. She hesitated for a fraction of a second, then poured anyway. Her husband was across the room, mid-conversation, smiling carefully. He'd grown up in this house. He understood the choreography. He had warned her once, gently, "They don't mean harm. They just assume things." Assumptions were efficient. They saved time. Her mother-in-law cleared her throat and tapped a fork against crystal. The room leaned in. The toast was affectionate, rehearsed, filled with family lore that had been told often enough to sound like truth. As the glasses were raised, her mother-in-law glanced toward her, still standing near the sideboard. "The help doesn't eat with family," she said, not sharply, not cruelly, as if correcting a seating mistake at a restaurant. There was a pause, not dramatic, just long enough for the words to settle into the furniture. She didn't flush. She didn't smile. She felt something quieter, more structural, the click of a pattern locking into place. All the small moments aligned, the questions about where she'd learned to serve so well, the compliments that edged too close to instruction, the way her opinions were received as suggestions rather than facts. She set the bottle down carefully. For a moment, she considered letting it pass. She was good at that. Letting things pass had been how she'd survived boardrooms where she was mistaken for an assistant, meetings where her presence was explained away until authority intervened. But this wasn't a meeting. This was a declaration of rank spoken aloud. She turned, met her mother-in-law's eyes, and said, evenly, "I own Whitmore Estate Vineyards." The sentence was unadorned. No emphasis. No pause for effect. It sounded almost impolite, the way facts sometimes do when they disrupt a story. Someone laughed, uncertain. A cousin blinked. Her husband straightened. "That's not," her mother-in-law began, then stopped. Before doubt could reorganize itself, a man near the window cleared his throat. He was older, dressed neutrally, the kind of person people didn't notice until they needed to. "She does," he said. "Majority stake. I manage distribution. Authority, when it arrives without anger, has a way of draining the room of oxygen." The silence that followed was different from before. It wasn't dismissive. It was recalibrating. Her mother-in-law's expression didn't collapse into embarrassment. It shifted into calculation. Apologies came later, folded into explanations about misunderstandings and not knowing. They were offered to the room more than to her. A chair was pulled out. A place was made. She sat. She ate. The food tasted the same. Conversation resumed, but the tone had changed. Questions were redirected. Compliments sharpened into interest. Her name was used more often, as if repetition might restore balance. She felt no satisfaction, just a mild, distant fatigue. Being seen had required a credential, and that fact lodged itself somewhere uncomfortable. Later, in the kitchen, her husband touched her arm. "I'm sorry," he said. Not urgently. "Honestly, I know," she replied. She did. The relationship didn't fracture that night. It didn't heal, either. It adjusted. Respect arrived with conditions now that depended on what she owned rather than who she was. Weeks later, the mother-in-law would mention the vineyard with pride, as if proximity could be retroactively claimed. Invitations would become warmer, more deliberate. The help would still be invisible, but not her. She understood then that dignity, once asserted, doesn't glow. It settles. It redraws boundaries quietly, and everyone pretends they were always there. She returned to work the next morning, tasting barrels, reviewing yields, thinking about land, how it remembers every hand that touches it, whether or not they're acknowledged. Class prejudice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it speaks politely, confident it won't be challenged. This time it had been, and the consequence wasn't revenge. It was permanence.